Thank you very much. I think we'll move on to another question. Thank you very much, everybody. Let me take this question now. From Robert Alexander, please.
In a country of 60 million people, is it that difficult to find someone suitably qualified to chair the child abuse inquiry?
No, well, this is the Lord Mayor of London, Fiona Woolf, and Butler Sloss before stood down for various reasons, and there's still nobody chosen to chair this inquiry into abuse over a number of years. Douglas Alexander, why can't anybody be found to do it?
I think that's a question that we really need Theresa May to answer. I mean, first of all, she got herself into a position of endorsing somebody who it turns out was related to a government minister at the time that these alleged crimes were happening. You could put one chair of this committee down to carelessness. There was then a second chair appointed who it turned out had social connections and had been at the house of one of the people whose names appeared in the newspapers in relation to many of these allegations. And in that sense, I think there is an overriding responsibility, an urgent responsibility on the government to get it right. Why? Not just because it's embarrassing for them 7 weeks on, but much, much more fundamentally for the victims of these crimes who want transparency, justice and answers. Frankly, they have waited too long. They deserve answers, and they will only have answers that they can trust if there is an independent chair of this inquiry who has integrity and independence that is beyond reproach. So, having ballsed this up twice, I sincerely hope in the interests of those victims, the government now gets on with it and appoints an independent chair who will command the confidence not just of the victims, but of everybody across Britain.
Brandon Lewis.
I think absolutely. I think we have got the expertise in this country. I think we will be able to find the right person.
Why is it so difficult?
Well, actually, I think in terms of the point the gentleman, I think Robert asked the question made about somebody who's qualified. Actually, I think both the people who have taken the chair so have been qualified. I don't think their qualifications to do the job are correct. But I also would say
I said if they're not independent, they're not suitably qualified.
Well,
so the qualification is independence. It is independence of mind, and also to be seen to be independent.
Yeah, well, I think
and we have to think about the victims.
You know, and I think absolutely that's the key issue. This is around making sure that we get to a position where victims can see that justice is done, and actually, as importantly, that this can never happen again. Institutions can never break down in this way again. Now, the panel is obviously already in place and has already been doing some work. Is meeting, and there's a forum indeed next week. And what Theresa May said this week, in apologising for the situation we found ourselves in, I think there's a difference between whether somebody is qualified and can do a job impartially and is perceived to be impartial. That's a very fair point. And that's why Theresa May has said now for the new chairman, when they're appointed, she's going to consult not just with Yvette Cooper, but also with the chairman of the Select Committee. They'll go through vetting of the Select Committee itself and to consult with victims as well. So we make sure we get somebody who's independent and has the confidence of victims. I think that is absolutely key.
Matt Ford.
This isn't just about government cock-ups and leaving laptops on trains and all the sort of natural ineptitude of government. The fact that this is an inquiry about the establishment protecting itself, and then the establishment is appointing two people that it could reasonably perceive would then protect itself, is one of the most ridiculous political dramas, one of the most needless political dramas I've ever witnessed. The only thing I would have to say is, I don't know whether it's actually possible to meet someone or to appoint someone that's of the sort of qualification in the academic sense and in the career sense that actually hasn't met politicians or members of the establishment. I think we're actually going to have to appoint someone that at some point, a member of the judiciary, that has hobbled up with cabinet ministers, because if they haven't, arguably they haven't been doing their job right in the first place.
Melanie Phillips.
I think Matt's entirely right. When you have an inquiry like this, you know, the establishment sets up the inquiry, it goes to a member of the establishment. And the establishment is quite small. They all either know each other, or are married to each other, or related to each other. And especially if you have to have a woman, because it's child abuse, well, women in public life tend to be people who have some involvement in children's charities and that whole world. So it's very hard to find someone who really is quite outside it. But I would make a different point. I think this inquiry is complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. Look at the terms of the inquiry. It's ridiculous. It basically is setting itself to inquire into the scandal of enabling and allowing these dreadful child abuse attacks and so forth over a large number of years, over the entire country, involving every agency involved in child protection, the police, the social services, the health service. It's impossible for any inquiry to discover anything that is significant, but we don't know. We all know what the problem is. In child abuse cases, there has been inquiry after inquiry after inquiry, not child sexual abuse, but, children being murdered and so forth and so on. And, every time one of these things happens, one of these dreadful tragedies where the social services fell down, and the police fell down, and the health service fell down, and there's a serious inquiry, and lots of people say serious things, and it's shelved, and then there's another terrible scandal, and another terrible abuse, and another inquiry.
So
no one learns anything.
What do you do? Nothing.
What you do is you understand what's going on here. There are two things, I think, that have gone on to create this situation. One is that in the administrative class there's been allowed to develop a culture of impunity in which people of incompetence get away with it and basically are appointed to different jobs and get promoted. And there's something gone wrong in our whole way that we hold professionals accountable. That's the first thing. The second thing is that with these terrible child abuse cases, there is such hypocrisy here because we are in a society which for, 2 decades, 3 decades, has winked at the sexualization of children. We've basically said children are entitled to have sexual relations. Look at what's going on in the schools. Give them sex education, give them abortion counselling. We basically, the whole idea
doesn't absolve the paedophiles of the awful crimes they commit.
What?
That doesn't absolve the abusers and the paedophiles.
Absolutely. It doesn't absolve them, but we have some responsibility. We've created a kind of paedophile society.
Okay. The man up there in the second row from the back. Yes, you sir.
We could quite easily solve the problem about the chairmanship because I have no confidence whatsoever in any establishment figures within London. It's just a city-state, it's just like a daisy chain. However, we do have similar judicial systems in Canada, Australia and New Zealand, and they could come over here, some people could be chosen from there, who don't have these links with Leon Britton and people like that, who could chair this inquiry properly, and some forthright speaking person could say, I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable, you need to tell me the truth.
Okay. Charles Kennedy.
I think if I may say so, that last point is an extremely pertinent one. Look at Northern Ireland. We've taken in people from Canada of senior military rank to investigate certain things, to lay down recommendations. They've carried the confidence of that very divided, very difficult community, and they've carried the broader confidence internationally as well. So I think you're in a good point there. But I'm feeling a bit nostalgic tonight in this programme. I mean, this is the second time I'm going to cite Mrs. Thatcher, having never referred to her for decades on this programme. But she did say famously once that advisors advise, ministers decide. And what Douglas was saying a moment ago, in the beginning of this discussion, I do find it bizarre how Theresa May arrived at both these decisions. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with the minister. But what on earth was Sir Humphrey doing, and several Sir Humphreys doing? They're supposed to be there as well to do all this sifting. They're supposed to know all these people. Now, the Home Secretary at the end of the day should also have announced to say, wait a minute, but was this information not put in front of them? Did they not know about it? So, although the Minister takes the constitutional rap and responsibility, I do think the problem goes wider, and I think you're quite right. Whether it's international, I think the establishment is too small, particularly legal circles, and I think it's too south-east London-centric.
Okay.
And there's a lot of good legal minds right across the country that we've got in as well.
Which leads us directly, we have 10 minutes left to our last question, I think.